Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 18 based on novel. So let's start. The entire sky was filled with a purple-black light. Meanwhile, 4 figures hovered in midair. Standing in front was a tall and skinny young man. His handsome devil-like face wore a brilliant smile as he looked at the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander's group in the distance. Big mongrel bird. The divine item mountain range was silent. The corner of the mouths of the countless experts twitched involuntarily. They never expected that there would actually be someone who dared to address the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander in such a manner in front of him. After all, not only was the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander an extremely powerful Samsara stage expert, he was also a 6-winged flying dragon, and a trace of dragon blood flowed within his body. Although he could not be compared to those high-ranking dragon tribe members, it was still a fact that the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander took pride in. After all, no one doubted the strength of the dragon tribe in the demonic beast world. Hence, even having the slightest connection with the dragon tribe's bloodline would cause others to become slightly wary. Yet, the identity that the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander had been so proud of was being described as a so-called big mongrel bird. Hence, even without looking at the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander, everyone could already imagine how furious the latter must be. What did you say? It was just like everyone had expected. The expression of the distant Heaven Dragon Demon Commander changed drastically when the voice of the handsome young man sounded, before majestic murderous intent surged. If not for the fact that he detected a dangerous ripple from the 4 of them, he would have already lost control and attacked in an attempt to turn this handsome young man into mincemeat. The Golden Ape Demon Commander beside the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander had a grave expression as he looked at the 4 figures. He slowly tightened his grip over his black metal rod. These unwelcome guests, who have appeared today, were no allies. The handsome young man smiled brilliantly as he stared at the furious Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. A violence that caused one's bones to shudder surged out like floodwater from within his purple-gold eyes. Did you say that you were going to rip them into 10,000 pieces previously? The handsome young man pointed towards the Lindong duo below, before he smiled and asked softly. The eyes of countless people shrunk. Only then did they came to a realization. These 4 people were actually reinforcements of the Deep Lightning Mountain. So they are reinforcements? Just what background does this brat has? The Golden Ape Demon Commander was slightly startled. His eyes were filled with uncertainty as he looked at Lindong. He did not expect that Lindong was actually acquainted with such powerful experts. You wish to protect them? I'm afraid you aren't qualified. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander stated coldly. Qualified? A harsh ridicule was lifted on the corner of the handsome young man's lips. In the next moment, he took a step forward before purple-black light erupted like a volcano. A pair of 10,000 feet large purple-gold bat wings was extended from his back. With the appearance of the purple-gold bat wings, an unusually terrifying pressure enveloped this entire place. This pressure. The expressions of the countless experts in this mountain range changed drastically as this pressure spread. Soon after, shocked voice spread in a wave-like fashion. Someone from the celestial demon Martin tribe. Countless pairs of eyes contained a rich fear as they stared at the handsome young man in the sky. None of them had expected that this person would belong to one of the 4 overlord tribes, the celestial demon Martin tribe. That was one of the most powerful and frightening tribes within the entire demonic beast world. The entire mountain range trembled under this terrifying pressure. At this moment, the expression of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander also became exceptionally ugly. In fact, there was quite a great amount of shock in his eyes. Damn it! Just who is that Lindong? How is it possible for him to be acquainted with members of the celestial demon Martin tribe? A furious roar was involuntarily unleashed within the heart of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander at this moment. The feeling of having lost control of the situation caused him to feel extremely stifled in his heart. He is actually a celestial demon Martin. The originally grave expression of the Golden Ape Demon Commander became even tenser. His hand, which was gripping onto his metal rod, involuntarily trembled. Clearly, he was well aware just how terrifying the celestial demon Martin tribe was. The overbearing manner and haughtiness of this tribe was renowned throughout the entire demonic beast world. Even the other three overlord tribes in the demonic beast world felt a headache when dealing with the celestial demon Martin tribe. This was because the other tribes were still somewhat reasonable and respected the concept of seniority. However, the celestial demon Martin tribe completely ignored all these. Someone older would step forward if their younglings were beaten. If that older person was beaten, someone even older would appear. This fight would continue on until one would find that every expert in the celestial demon Martin tribe was chasing after you. Just the thought of this scene alone caused one to quiver. Is Grandpa Martin qualified now? The handsome young man looked at the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander, who had an expression that was gradually becoming ugly, as he slowly said. The eyes of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander were gloomy as he clenched his fist. Little Martin's celestial demon Martin identity did cause him to be afraid. Regardless, he was still a powerful Samsara stage expert and there was pride in his heart. He immediately spoke in a deep voice. Friend, Lin Dong snatched the divine item treasury that originally belonged to our Beast War region. It is fine if you wish to protect him. We will definitely not hound him anymore if he hands it over. This Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was indeed scheming. He knew that it was going to be difficult to deal with the celestial demon Martin. Hence, he dragged the entire Beast War region into this matter with his words, in an attempt to pressurize the other party. Took something that belongs to you. The handsome young man smiled. Soon after, this smile became cold. That is only because we respect you. Damn it. Grandpa Martin hasn't decided if he will let you off easily today. Yet, you are actually thinking of courting trouble? Have you turned into an idiot from all that beating? Many were directly stunned as cold sweat continuously appeared on their foreheads. They finally witnessed just how overbearing the celestial demon Martin tribe was. You? The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was furious. He did not expect that the other party would actually push further, despite him taking a step back. It was clear that the other party had no intention of giving in. Do you really think that our Beast War region's three great demon commanders are so easily bullied? The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander roared sharply. His Samsara stage aura was completely unleashed at this moment. The Ghost Condor Demon Commander had also rushed over from some distance away. Although the name of the celestial demon Martin tribe was quite frightening, the temptation of the divine item treasury made it impossible for them to give up so easily. The eyes of the three great demon commanders became sharp. These three Samsara stage auras caused the Yuan power in this place to become somewhat uncontrollable. Oh? Why? Are you planning to play with my celestial demon Martin tribe? The smile on the corner of the handsome young man's face widened slightly. A chill began to gather at a frightening speed within his eyes. Ha ha, I have heard a little about the three great demon commanders in the Beast War region. Today, I would really like to try and see if you guys live up to your reputations. The three middle-aged men behind the handsome young man smiled faintly. All three of them took a step forward. Three majestic and ferocious aura came whizzing out from them. Their auras were clearly a little stronger than the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander trio. For Samsara stage experts, cold sweat dripped continuously from the backs of countless experts and there was shock present within their eyes. They were indeed the celestial demon Martin tribe. For Samsara stage experts had appeared together. This lineup could dominate the entire Beast War region. The seven vast and mighty auras clashed in the sky. It was as though the air had become distorted. Everyone could clearly feel that amidst the clash of the auras, those originally imposing Heaven Dragon Demon Commander trio were clearly the weaker party. The celestial demon Martin were creatures comparable to the high-ranked dragon tribe. Based on the strength of their bloodline, the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander trio were clearly at a disadvantage. Even though they were of the same level, it was obvious that the celestial demon Martin tribe's Samsara stage members were stronger than them. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander trio had ugly faces. They could clearly feel the pressuring aura emitted from the other party. Moreover, they understood that they were no match for them in a head-on clash. Furthermore, there was also Lindong and Little Flame eyeing them with ill intent from the side. Although those two did not possess the strength of a Samsara stage individual, their many stealthy attacks, like the one Lindong had unleashed earlier, caused even the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander to feel fearful. Heaven Dragon, the Golden Ape Demon Commander, frowned. He quickly laughed bitterly to himself and softly said, "It is likely that we will fail today." Although Lindong and Little Flame had revealed a relatively shocking fighting strength, they were not considered as real threats to the Golden Ape Demon Commander trio. However, now that the Celestial Demon Martin tribe has intervened, the advantage that they previously enjoyed had completely vanished. Moreover, despite the tremendous strength of the Golden Ape Demon Commander faction, his heart still shuddered at the thought of offending the Celestial Demon Martin tribe. "That brat actually has such a background," the Ghost Condor Demon Commander shook his head helplessly. He never imagined that Lindong would be acquainted with such a powerful friend. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander clenched his fist tightly upon hearing this. His eyes were filled with dissatisfaction and fury. The face-off of the auras in the sky caused many to sigh quietly. This was indeed worthy of the Celestial Demon Martin tribe. "Young Commander, is that your friend?" The many warriors from the deep Lightning Mountain rushed over from behind Lindong and Little Flame. They looked at the handsome young man, who had oppressed the three great demon commanders until they did not dare to show their temper. Their eyes contained a shock which could not be hidden as they carefully inquired. They never knew that the Lindong duo would actually possess such a background. "He is my second brother." Little Flame nodded and said. Chen Tong and the others nodded and suppressed the churning shock in their hearts. Soon after, they suddenly recalled something. In the past, Little Flame always addressed Lindong as his big brother. Yet, this handsome young man, who clearly possessed an extremely high status in the Celestial Demon Martin tribe, was his second brother. In other words, Lindong was the boss of the three of them? "Big mongrel bird, this matter is not over." The handsome young man smiled coldly in the sky as he stared at the ugly expression on the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. He ignored the latter and turned his eyes towards the two figures on the ground below. Everyone, including the three Samsara stage middle-aged experts beside him, could sense that the brutal aura within the young man's eyes had diminished slightly when the latter looked downwards. An extremely rare, gentle and somewhat excited emotion took its place instead. This discovery caused the three middle-aged men to be a little startled. Such an emotion had rarely surfaced on him. The body of the handsome young man moved. His monstrous aura was withdrawn as his body appeared in front of Lindong and Little Flame in a ghost-like fashion. "Second brother." Little Flame looked at the familiar face. His rough face had an extremely excited expression surfacing on it. "Perfect profound death stage? Stupid tiger, it seems like you have not wasted the past year." The handsome young man looked at the metal tower like Little Flame before a gentle smile rose on the corner of his lips. After which, he curled his lips and teased. Little Flame rubbed his head and smiled. After which, he moved his body aside and a skinny young man appeared behind him. The handsome young man looked at Lindong. At this moment, the latter's young face also had a smile on it. The smile was not intense, but there was a mellow feeling to it. This feeling seeped into one's heart and had a calming effect. That smile was the same when one man, Martin, and Tiger roamed the lands together back then. Regardless of what great dangers they faced, it was always able to remove the anxiety in their hearts a little at a time. The handsome young man recalled how this skinny young figure chose to immediately withdraw from the Dao sect and stand by their side to face the three great chiefs of the Yuan Gate, who had pushed him into a desperate state back at Unique Devil City, despite knowing that it was most likely a suicidal move. At that time, he had the same exact smile. When they finally managed to use the spatial teleportation to escape, this figure also stepped forward and helped them to buy extra time. At that time, he felt like it no longer so difficult to accept this fellow as his big brother. Memories surged into his mind like floodwater. There was a bitterness that he had never felt before, surging within the young man's heart. He inhaled a deep breath of air and the handsome face revealed a brilliant smile. However, this time around, it did not contain a brutalness that drilled deep into one's bones. Instead, there was a rare gentleness. "Big brother." Standing in front of Lin Dong, this usually arrogant person who had never bowed down to anyone, shrugged his shoulders. He ignored the widened eyes of Chen Tong and the rest standing behind Lin Dong, as he addressed him as such. For the first time, he was finally able to say this title, which he had always disputed, in a free and easy manner. Big Brother. The atmosphere of the entire place stiffened for a moment after these two words escaped from the mouth of the handsome man, in a free and easy manner. Countless experts stared at this scene in a startled fashion before they parted their lips. There was shock that they could not conceal, present in their eyes. Ever since that handsome young man showed up, he displayed pride and haughtiness that was inborn. However, no one felt upset at his overbearing actions. Instead, everyone thought that this was only natural. After all, he was from the celestial demon Martin tribe, one of the 4 renowned overlord tribes in the demonic beast world. Even though they did not understand that handsome young man well, they were still able to sense the pride in his heart. His pride meant that he refused to submit to anyone in the world. In fact, even peak experts who have stepped into the reincarnation stage would not be able to subdue this extremely arrogant fellow. However, this overbearing and extremely haughty celestial demon Martin, who gave everyone a headache, stood in front of the young man of similar age, whose strength was even inferior to him, and called out this address. This immediately stirred a storm in their hearts. Those simple 2 words did not appear stiff. Everyone could hear that it came from deep within his heart. However, all of them were unable to comprehend the reason behind it. Hence, those gazes contained differing emotions, as they were directed towards that skinny young man called Lin Dong. This man had once again allowed them to sense a different kind of shock. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander trio's eyes shrunk slightly at this moment, as they stood in the sky. Both the Golden Ape Demon Commander and the Ghost Condor Demon Commander had grave expressions. This was the first moment that they felt that their decision to attack that young man named Lin Dong was a mistake. This was because it was also the first time that they ever heard a haughty celestial demon Martin member actually address someone from outside their tribe, and especially a human, as their big brother. They were not naive. As Samsara stage experts, they naturally knew how exceptionally proud the celestial demon Martin was. Therefore, they also understood just how frighteningly difficult it was for him to address him as Big Brother in such a natural and easy manner. Ha, this is the first time I saw Ah Jiao acting like this. The middle-aged man, who had also come from the celestial demon Martin, looked at this scene. He was also startled for a moment before he laughed. The 2 Samsara stage experts by the side nodded in surprise. Their eyes appeared strange as they stared at Lin Dong. They were aware that the objective of this trip was to search for little Martin's important friends. However, they did not expect that the relationship between them would actually be this deep. As members of the same tribe, they were well aware of little Martin's character. Furthermore, considering the latter's status in the celestial demon Martin tribe, it was likely that little Martin would still retain that overbearing attitude, which suggested that the world revolved around him, even when facing elders in the tribe. After all, he had an overbearing demeanor and he frequently angered those old fellows greatly. If they were aware that this little Martin, who usually looked down on everyone, acted in such a manner in this place, their expressions, which would not change even if the sky was to collapse, would likely become completely stunned. It's really. Lin Dong was also a little absent-minded after being called Big Brother by little Martin in front of the countless pairs of eyes. He laughed softly. This was really difficult. However, I thought that you were only going to address me as your big brother, after my strength surpassed yours. Hey, stop boasting. I have barely agreed to it after witnessing your good performance back at the unique Devil City. Little Martin curled his lips. However, his handsome face had an extremely rare redness on it. It was likely no easy task for someone as prideful as him to use that address. Lin Dong smiled. After which, he shut his eyes and inhaled a breath of air. Soon after, he exhaled heavily. At this moment, it seemed as though he had spat out the heavy burden that had been pressing on his heart for a long time. I have finally found the both of you. Lin Dong said softly. The slight quiver in his voice had disappeared. His heart had been in a state of constant worry ever since he appeared in the chaotic demon sea. That was because he was worried that the 3 of them would never meet again after that separation. When he was in the chaotic demon sea, he tried his best to gather information about the two of them. However, he ended up returning empty-handed. Fortunately, they had finally been reunited. This heavy burden that he held for over a year has finally been completely put down. Little Martin looked at Lin Dong's skinny face and smiled. Even the smile on his handsome face appeared somewhat demonic. He extended his arms and gave Lin Dong a big hug. Lin Dong was not the only one who was hoping for this day to arrive. He too felt the same way. However, the injuries he sustained back then was far too severe. Therefore, all he could do was to return to his tribe to recuperate, and he was unable to search for the Lin Dong duo. He did not have much thoughts. All he knew was that he would definitely fill that Yuan gate with corpses if any accidents were to occur to Lin Dong and Little Flame. To do so, he was willing to pay any price for it. However, it seems like trouble really follows you no matter where you go. Little Martin released his arms and laughed. In order to gain sufficient strength to return to the Eastern Xian region, I have no other choice. Lin Dong shook his head. He really did not wish to offend these three great demon commanders too. However, he could not give up on the mysterious divine palace either. Eastern Xian region. Little Martin's long eyes narrowed. A fierceness once again surged within his eyes. He quickly parted his lips and laughed. I still remember those three old dogs. All of us still remember. Lin Dong smiled. However, his smile was as cold as a blade. However, it is fine since you have offended them, Little Martin smiled. He lifted his head and looked at the three great demon commanders. A prideful expression once again slowly surged onto his handsome face. Grandpa Martin is unable to protect you in the Eastern Xian region. However, Grandpa Martin will destroy anyone who dares to touch you in the demonic region. Allow me to settle the issues here. I cannot allow the both of you to stand out all the time. Lin Dong involuntarily smiled upon hearing Little Martin's words. He nodded slowly. This was the overbearing Grandpa Martin whom he knew. Little Martin turned around in front of the countless pairs of eyes, before he walked forward one step at a time. A frightening ferocity once again swept forth like a storm, causing one's heart to quiver. The expressions of the three great demon commanders in the sky became a little unnatural at this moment. Although my celestial demon Martin tribe is overbearing, we also follow the rules. This big mongrel bird will not be able to leave today. If the both of you are loyal to him, you can stay behind as well, and Grandpa Martin will deal with you. Little Martin lifted his head. His eyes were filled with brutalness as he stared at the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander trio and slowly said. The expression of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander changed the moment his words sounded. Clearly, Little Martin was targeting him. You better not be too arrogant. This Beast War region is not the territory of your celestial demon Martin tribe. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander cried out furiously. He quickly looked towards the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo and said, the two of you, I'm afraid that it isn't going to be beneficial for us if news spread that we allowed them to act as they please in our Beast War region, am I right? At this moment, the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was clearly planning on dragging both the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo into the fight. Otherwise, the other party's fighting strength would easily suppress him. After all, he did not have the confidence that he could deal with four Samsara stage experts. This was especially the case since the other party was from the Celestial Demon Martin tribe. The Golden Ape Demon Commander duo had a change in expression when they heard the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander's words. They clenched their teeth before their bodies rapidly withdrew under the ugly expression of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. Friend, we will not participate in this matter today. We will apologize to you if we have offended your two friends. The Golden Ape Demon Commander duo cupped their hands together towards Little Martin from a great distance. They were no fools, and offending the Celestial Demon Martin tribe was something that only a fool would do. Moreover, even if they did not retreat, the four Samsara stage experts in the other party was not something that they could deal with. Since Little Martin had given them a way to back off, they were naturally willing to leave. Staying loyal to the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was a joke. If it was not because they were after the divine item treasury, they wouldn't have joined the fight between the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander and Deep Lightning Mountain. The many experts on Divine Item Mountain Range parted their mouths upon seeing this scene. Their eyes contained respect and fear as they looked at little Martin. What was deterrence? This was deterrence. Just a sentence alone left these two great demon commanders with no choice but to retreat. How amazing! Chen Tong's group also smacked their lips together while feeling a great respect in their hearts. The Golden Ape Demon Commander and the Ghost Condor Demon Commander were the rulers of this Beast War region. Yet, these two extremely well-known and powerful individuals were forced to retreat because of his words. Their eyes stealthily glanced towards little Martin, who was at a short distance away. Subsequently, his eyes appeared complicated as he looked at Lin Dong in front of him. This young man was really increasingly unfathomable. You all. Very well. Do you really think that I, the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander, am afraid? The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander looked at the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo who chose to withdraw, before his face turned green with fury. His eyes were dark and solemn. He clenched his hand under his sleeve and a red light seemed to have shattered. I will see just what can you do to me in a one-on-one fight. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander cried out in a cold voice. This fellow was quite intelligent and he had insisted on a one-on-one fight. Clearly, he was afraid that little Martin and the three other Samsara stage experts would gang up on him. At that time, regardless of how many tricks he had, he could only choose to flee miserably. You are actually playing such tricks in front of Grandpa Martin. Little Martin stared at the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander with a teasing expression. He had naturally seen through his little trick. Monstrous brutality slowly gathered within those purple golden eyes. However, aren't you thinking too highly of yourself if you think that we will need to attack together to deal with a big mongrel bird like you? A pair of 10,000 feet bat wings once again extended out from his back as little Martin's final word sounded. Overbearing purple-black energy shot towards the clouds like a bright light pillar. A frightening pressure enveloped the land. The current little Martin had finally completely recovered his full strength. A purple-black light pillar broke through the clouds before waves of powerful pressure covered the place. The entire land seemed to have trembled at this moment. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander's eyes shrunk slightly as he stared at little Martin's shocking aura. Following which, his expression involuntarily changed. Although they were both at the Samsara stage, he felt an extremely dangerous sensation from the latter. The demonic world was just like the food pyramid and the celestial demon Martin tribe was at the highest level of this pyramid. Although the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was also at a fairly high level, he was still lacking when compared to the former. Although he felt endangered, the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was no ordinary pushover either. Given the current circumstances, he knew that he had no choice but to fight. Moreover, he also possessed some confidence in his own strength. Hence, even though little Martin might be a celestial demon Martin, he knew that it was difficult for little Martin to reduce him into a miserable state, even if little Martin gained the upper hand. At that time, all he had to do was to look for an opportunity to escape, and this would not end up affecting his reputation as well. With this thought in mind, the eyes of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander turned dark and cold. It was indeed true that no one wanted to offend the celestial demon Martin tribe. However, he was not as wary as the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo. After all, he also had an extraordinary background. I have long heard about how powerful the celestial demon Martin tribe is. Since I have the opportunity today, I would like to see if for myself. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander cried out in a cold voice. He took a stride forward before majestic life and death chi spread from the 6 blood wings on his back. His aura rose and it was clear that he had pushed his Samsara stage strength to the limit. Little Martin lifted his head. There was a ferocious smile on his handsome face. In the next moment, the 10,000 feet bat wings on his back suddenly flapped before wild gales blew across the sky. His body also disappeared instantly. The blood wings on the back of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander also began to flap the moment little Martin disappeared. His body flashed and he retreated tens of thousands of feet. His frightening speed caused one to be stunned. However, the space behind the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander suddenly split apart after his body appeared tens of thousands of feet away. A fist that was filled with black light erupted. There was also a majestic life and death chi spreading from under his palm. A punch was thrown forward and everyone could see that the space itself had suddenly collapsed. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander suddenly turned around. Little Martin's speed had caught him by surprise. Clearly, he was unable to dodge at this juncture. A ruthless expression quickly flashed across his eyes before densely packed blood scales grew over his hand. Subsequently, he threw a punch forward. Bang! Both fists clashed head-on and a frightening energy ripple swept apart like a storm. The space within 100,000 feet radius of the both of them scattered under the spreading force, forming a vacuum region. During the previous head-on clash, the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander had sent Lin Dong flying with a punch. This clearly demonstrated his Samsara stage strength. However, this time around, he was unable to once again reveal his imposing manner. Get lost! The space collapsed and a prideful cold cry was suddenly emitted. Immediately, the expression of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander changed drastically. The blood scales on his arm were cracked while his entire body flew backwards in a miserable fashion. Many pairs of eyes stared at the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander, who had fallen into a disadvantage after only a single exchange, before their eyelids twitched violently. He was indeed a member of the Celestial Demon Martin tribe. Amongst those at the same level, it was likely that even those experts belonging to the other three Overlord tribe would have difficulties fighting against them. Is that all you got? Little Martin appeared in a flash. There was some ridicule and contempt on his handsome face. This was different from the murderous intent hidden under Lin Dong's warm face. Instead, Little Martin constantly revealed his overbearing haughtiness and looked down on his opponent. However, that overbearing manner also hid a meticulousness that belonged exclusively to him. It is too early for you to be celebrating. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander's face turned furiously green. Suddenly, he stomped his foot in the sky, before the space beneath his foot collapsed. Black and white life-death chi formed around him in a swirl-like fashion. His dragon roar, which was filled with wild violence, resounded in the sky. Domineering Dragon Sky-Shattering Fist. After the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander released a furious roar, one could see 10,000 feet large wings forming behind him. A flying dragon roared before a fist was thrown forward. A 10,000 feet large fist was thrown forward and a hurricane seemed to follow. Wild gales swept across the sky. You actually dare to call yourself a domineering dragon with your puny abilities? You are a disgrace to the dragon tribe. Little Martin laughed coldly. He simply stared at the huge, 10,000 feet fist whistling forward, before he extended his hand, while purple-black lightning arcs danced over his long arm. Boom! The huge fist smashed heavily onto Little Martin's palm. However, this seeming incomparably ferocious attack came to a halt upon touching Little Martin's palm. Moreover, the latter's body did not even tremble at all. It was as though the strength contained in this overbearing attack from the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was completely absorbed by Little Martin. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander's face turned furiously green. He released some angry roars and swung his 10,000 feet dragon fist. Many afterimages were formed and the surrounding yuan power turned violent under his fist wind. Nonetheless, regardless of how fearsome the former's attack was, Little Martin continued to stand in midair. Both his hands moved gently before he completely neutralized those wild and violent attacks. In fact, his body did not even budge at all. Second brother is amazing. Little Flame looked at both parties in the sky, which were in completely different states, before he involuntarily praised. Lin Dong nodded slightly. The current Little Martin was at the Samsara stage. However, he was clearly stronger than the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander, who was also at the same cultivation level. Considering the Celestial Demon Martin's formidable physical body as well, it was obvious that this Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was no match for him. In the past, I have always heard this fellow bragging about how strong he was at his peak. From the looks of it now, it is a little believable. Lin Dong laughed softly. He felt a little emotional. A long time ago, a Nirvana stage expert was an unbeatable existence in his eyes, while little Martin was merely a demonic spirit with little strength which could disappear any time. At that time, Lin Dong had never expected that he would end up where he was today. It was likely that little Martin also never expected that he would be able to return to his peak form. Only the both of them knew in their hearts the enormous price they had paid as they carefully faced various powerful enemies in order to reach this stage today. Regardless, they managed to obtain their desired reward for the price they had paid. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander is no match for little Martin. Lin Dong stared at the wild and violent energy ripple which was sweeping across the sky, before he commented with a smile. Bang! In the sky, little Martin once again threw a palm forward after Lin Dong uttered those words. His drifting palm was accompanied by wind and lightning. After which, his palm smashed onto the dragon fist, which came rushing over in a ferocious fashion. However, after fist and palm collided, an icy chill suddenly flashed across little Martin's handsome face. He curled his hand and it turned into a claw. Purple-black light gathered over the tip of his fingers, forming a liquid-like substance. Heaven Demon Hand. An icy cold voice was suddenly unleashed from little Martin's mouth. He swung his arm and a puff sound could be heard. The 10,000 feet dragon fist collapsed in an instant. Little Martin's body moved and his claw penetrated through the dragon fist and landed heavily onto the arm of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. His 5 fingers pierced downwards like poisonous snakes. Crack! The sound of bone cracking was accompanied with splurts of fresh blood. A miserable screech erupted from the mouth of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. Immediately, everyone was shocked when they discovered that one of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander's arm was actually broken by him. This scene caused the skin of many experts to turn numb. Even the corner of the Golden Ape Demon Commander's mouth twitched as he pulled back. To begin with, the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was a 6-winged flying dragon. Although his physical body was not as powerful as a true member of the dragon tribe, it was not to be underestimated. In fact, even someone like them was unable to easily break his arm with their full strength. Yet, his powerful physical body seemed as weak as paper in little Martin's hands. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander let out a miserable cry and withdrew. His hair was in a mess and his face had become unusually distorted. He stared viciously at a callous little Martin and roared, "Do you really think that I do not dare to kill you? If you have any other abilities, you should use them now. Otherwise, you might not have the chance to do so." Little Martin lifted his hand. Blood flowed down his long finger and there was a frightening brutal aura rising on his handsome face at this moment. The eyes of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander turned blood red. This time around, he did not hesitate any longer. He widened his mouth before a golden light beam suddenly shot out. Immediately, it turned into a 10,000 feet large large mountain. There were countless ancient symbols lingering over this mountain, while a vast and mighty ripple was emitted from it. Ancient Divine Object, 9 Sky Heavy Mountain. The Golden Ape Demon Commander duo had a change in expression upon seeing this item. Clearly, they recognized it. Oh! The 32nd ranked item on the Ancient Divine Object ranking, the 9 Sky Heavy Mountain, huh? It is unexpected that the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander actually possessed such a divine object. When the 3 middle-aged men from the Celestial Demon Martin tribe saw this scene, a tinge of shock flashed across their faces. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander formed some hand seals with a single hand. Majestic life and death chi turned into a light pillar which shot into the huge golden mountain. After which, the large mountain trembled and swelled up. In fact, it actually reached 100,000 feet in size. A gigantic shadow enveloped the place and seemed to cover the entire mountain range. 9 Sky Heaven Mountain, suppress all demons. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander had a ferocious expression, while his eyes were completely red. Bang! The entire world seemed to have become much dimmer at this moment. 10,000 golden light shot out from the huge golden mountain. After which, the huge mountain moved and tore through the space. It appeared in the air above little Martin and finally came crashing downward. Bang bang bang. The mountain range below had collapsed as the large golden mountain descended. That destructive force was incomparably frightening. Little Martin lifted his head and looked at the large golden mountain that was descending towards him. His handsome face had a densely cold expression surging from it as he slowly spread his hand. A purple-black bright sun erupted from within his body. At the same time, his cold and indifferent brutal cold cry also resounded across the sky. Celestial Demon Sun Devouring Technique. This video will end here.